Hello, good morning, all. I don't know if you can hear me. My name is Prosper Onyekachukwu, and I'm your facilitator for today. And working with me and my colleagues, I have Miriam here, we'll have Joy, we'll have Dr. Isa, among other 5-3 team members on the call. Please, can you confirm if you can hear me by waving of your hand? All right, sounds good. Thank you very much. So I'd like to ask that all the facilities on the call, please, can you turn on your video? We usually would want to see you with your videos on, especially all the facilities and as much as the individuals that want to do so. Thank you very much. So we want to call on the to give us an opening remark, and standing by to do that is Mo Labake Ekundeyo, who is the Senior Program Population Program Officer. Labake, please, if you are there, can you unmute yourself and go on?
Okay. Good morning, Prosper.
Good morning to
Hello.
you.
Okay.
Good morning, I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everybody, and happy new month to you all. I welcome you all to today's special ECHO session. As we can see, today's topic is a very important one, which has to do with our day-to-day activities in our various facilities, which speaks about the relationship between two or more people, and also the relationship between we ourselves, talking about emotional intelligence. And we have our renowned subject matter expert this morning, who is going to do judgment on today's topic, in the person of Dr. Yetunde Akane. Ma, good morning to you. You are
We can no longer hear you, Labake.
to today's. Okay, can you hear me now? It's the network. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so, and I also welcome all our participants, the CDC representative, all other IPs on the call, and also our national clinical mentors and all other persons on the call, even the NASCAP colleagues. I welcome you all this morning on behalf of the Federal Ministry of Health, the leadership of NASCAP, Dr. Akudo Bazu, and the EDSA in the person of Dr. Adibobola Bashoru, wishing every one of us an impactful session. Thank you all. Over to you, Prosper.
Thank you very much, Labake. Thank you to Federal Ministry of Health for always being there to support and give direction to the program. We also want to call on CDC representative to give us a goodwill message, and standing by to do that, we have John Essien. John Essien, please, can we have you go on? Hello, John Essien, are you there?
Prosper, good morning. Great. Can you confirm you can hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please go on.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, thanks again, Prosper, for this very interesting topic today, dealing with intra and interpersonal relationship as an HIV service provider. I mean, we can say more. This is pretty interesting topic again, as we all work in our facilities as service providers. You know, both intra and interpersonal relationships are very critical skills, you know, that will basically help us manage our emotions, you know, and cope with challenges, especially as we manage others. You know, so this is a very critical time for us to, you know, look at this topic. And again, I want to say kudos to 5-3 for all the coordination, and thanks to all the facility guys who has been able to join in, you know, and to our SMEs and people presenting and joining in from other sources. Really appreciate this opportunity again today to listen. Thanks so much, and I wish us a very full talk today.
Thank you very much, John. Thanks to CDC as well for all your support. It appears we are having some level of network glitches, but then we hope we'll scale through. At this point, I want to introduce the subject matter experts in the person of Dr. Yetunde Akani. She is an assistant director of social work. She's also a clinical psychologist and then a behavior change communicator with University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital. She is one of our renowned subject matter experts, and she'll be talking to us today on dealing with intra and interpersonal relationship as HIV service provider. And I believe all of us here on the call are providing one or two services to the patient. So she's going to be speaking directly to us as regards our daily activities at the facilities and then at the IP level. Dr. Yetunde, please, if you are there, can we have you unmute yourself and go on? You have about 30 minutes or more, 35-minute max to present. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Prosper. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for having you on this call. Without much ado, I'll go straight to the presentation, but then I'll need to switch off my video for effective presentation because of the network issues.
Please
and so
go on.
I'll start by, okay, I want to share the screen right now, and I hope you are getting that. Okay. Let me put it on slide one. Okay. So like I said, good morning, everyone. And we'll be talking about, sorry, I'm just trying to, okay, that's okay. So welcome everybody on the call. And this morning we'll be talking about a very important aspect of our services. All this while, most times presentation is on what we need to do for our clients, but this time around, we want to see what we can actually do for ourselves so that we can actually provide efficient services. And that has to do with talking about intra and interpersonal relationship as an HIV service provider. We want to see what the importance of this is. We want to understand what it is all about. We want to know how to develop these skills that are needed for us to have a good intra and interpersonal relationship as we provide services. And then we want to understand the role emotional intelligence plays on helping us to develop good interpersonal and intrapersonal relationship. So what then is intrapersonal relationship? I'm sure most of us should know what this is, but then just for emphasis sake, it means the relationship that one has with his or her own self and communication that happens within an individual's mind. And so what that means is, we're talking about what you as an individual, you are thinking about inside of you, and nobody can understand that except you. We're talking about how you feel inside you. And that's why at times we ask, there are some persons who do not even have a relationship with themselves. Because intrapersonal relationship is talking about having a relationship with yourself, knowing how you function emotionally. Then what do we talk about interpersonal relationship? For short, it refers to any relationship or communication between people. And that's why it is inter. It is a strong connection we feel with those closest to us. And then it could be our friends, it could be our colleagues, it could be family members, or even romantic partners. And so for the purpose of this presentation, we are dealing on interpersonal relationship with our colleagues. You could see the building blocks. We all need to come together to be able to make this block have a meaning, give a meaning to this. And so what that means is that we need to be able to develop interpersonal relationships for us to be able to work effectively with one another. I don't know because of time, but then I just want us to do a quick one among ourselves. What is the relationship between intrapersonal and interpersonal? Let's just have one or two persons respond to this, please.
Okay, can we have anybody raise your hands to respond to this? Just a quick question. Can you raise your hands if you want to respond and you'll be called upon?
So following that definition, we've talked about what intrapersonal relationship is and what interpersonal relationship is. So what's the relationship? One is within yourself and the other is between you and other persons. So what is the relationship between the two?
Okay, let's have
Prosper,
yes, Epin Ogun, BUTH, please unmute yourself and go on.
Good morning, house.
Good morning.
I thank God for this grace opportunity to be here again. Reacting to this question, I would say the relationship between this intrapersonal and interpersonal is my personal worldview affects the way I interact with people around me. My personal, that is my emotional intelligence, my state of mind affects the way I react to people around me. Let me just put it that way.
Thank you.
All right, let's have Ijoma Obo Efang. Please, can you unmute yourself and go on?
Okay, thank you, everyone. Good morning. So it's just to buttress what he said. You can't give what you don't have. So if you're relating well with yourself, you'll be able to relate well with others.
Thank you. I think I'm okay with that. You know, like I said from the beginning, I said, I'm sure we are all aware of this. We have an idea of what we are talking about, but then it's just to raise our level of consciousness and a better understanding of the effects of our intrapersonal and interpersonal relationship on our service provision. So thank you, those who made comments. So the relationship, it's so broad that we need to understand it, that it's intrapersonal relationship is a requirement for consistent good interpersonal relationship. That basically we need to understand. Like the last speaker said, if you don't understand your own needs, you can't easily recognize the needs of others. And so what that means for us as service providers, we must understand how we function emotionally. Because if you others, like she said, you don't give what you don't have. I said, like she said, you don't give what you don't have. And then if you haven't taken care of yourself, it is impossible for you to also focus on other people's.
Dr. Yetunde, we seem to have lost you.
And so what are we saying? Hello, are you getting me?
We lost you at some point. We'll continue.
Okay, no, I was just trying to say that if you've not taken care of your own needs, then it's impossible for you to focus on the needs of other people. And so it is important for us to know that our level of self-awareness, our ability to be resilient and positive allow us to contribute to a good interpersonal relationship. And then we also need to understand that people generally trust and enjoy working with people that they can trust, people who are full of positivity and strength. And so what that means is that if you're not functioning within yourself emotionally, if you have issues identifying your gaps, what you need to do to contribute to an effective interpersonal relationship, then it becomes difficult for you to have a good interpersonal relationship with others. So what we are trying to say that there are essential skills we need to have for us to be able to function effectively intra and inter. And so what is the importance of intra and interpersonal relationship? I just want to run through this. It increases our ability to be empathic. It is when you understand your own pains, you know what it means to go through pains, that you will become empathic, you will become caring and understanding. I will still repeat it, you don't give what you don't have. If you are not empathetic, if you don't understand the needs of others, it becomes difficult for you to even assist people. It promotes overall well-being of an individual. When you have a good interpersonal relationship and intrapersonal relationship, it promotes well-being because you have little or nothing to worry about. a little or no conflicts. There's no way where humans gather, there will always be conflict. But what we are trying to do is that we need to minimize it. But for us to minimize it effectively, then we need to understand how we function inside of us, because it is how we function inside of us that determines how we function with other persons around ourselves. And that's why people ask you that, are you sure you know yourself at all? So let's start asking ourselves, who am I? How do I function? How do I take issues? What are my perceptions over certain things? How do I perceive things? Culture, belief system, these are things that actually affect our intrapersonal relationship. So then is that it allows for effective communication and understanding among employees or service providers, important for overall physical and emotional happiness. It gives a sense of purpose in life, and it is an essential part of our social support. So what is the quality of your intra and interpersonal relationship? Start asking yourself, start checking within yourself. There's no need for you to give me an answer. It's a self-evaluation. You want to do a self-assessment of yourself right away. But in trying to do that, we'll give you more details, more points that you can consider to help you know what the quality of your inter or intrapersonal relationship is. So then, we need to understand this, service provider, that the quality of our life is the quality of our relationship. And that's why social support plays a significant role in the quality of life of every individual. But then for us to be able to have a good interpersonal, intra and interpersonal relationship, communication has a lot to do with that. And so what is communication? They say it is to effectively communicate. We know what communication is. Exchange of information, feelings, thoughts with an individual or within an individual. That's what we need to know. We all communicate to ourselves. And that's why we're talking about the intrapersonal aspect of the relationship. We communicate, we talk to ourselves. And so we think inwards. And then at times when you speak out, you are speaking out the thoughts, what you've been battling with, what has been within you, and that's what we are expressing. It's an expression of your thoughts and your feelings. So they said to effectively communicate, we must realize that we are all different in the way we perceive the world, and use this understanding as a guide to our communication with others. Remember that we have different view of situations. If you're on the left-hand side, the way you see a situation is different from the way an individual on the right-hand side would see that. And so that's what we are trying to make you understand, that for you to effectively communicate, you need to understand that people have different perception, and we need to take that into consideration. So what role does communication play in inter and intrapersonal relationship? Communication is said to be the basis of every interpersonal relationship. It reduces misunderstanding and eventually strengthens the bond among individual service providers. It allows for expression and reciprocation of feelings through various modes of communication. Remember, we have different ways people can communicate. We have non-verbal ways of communication, and we have verbal ways. Under non-verbal ways, we have body postures, we have gestures, we have signs and other things. So in all those modes of communication, you are expressing a feeling. And so we need to understand that. And so that's why they said your body language matters a lot in communication. It promotes healthy interaction that leads to healthy relationship. If we as service providers are not united, if we have conflicts, unresolved conflicts among ourselves, I tell you that it spills out to the people we provide services to. So then, what is intrapersonal communication? We said interpersonal communication can be defined as a communication with oneself. I've said it before. Look at it. Where the individual is talking to himself, you ask yourself questions, self-tape, you self-converse, verbalization, and that's why at times when you see people soliloquizing, even though it seems we are hearing them, and that's why at times you feel that these persons have mental health problems. Well, it could be a sign of it, but then at times the individual is actually communicating intrally. And so it's very, very important, self-talk. Remember, at this point, it's only you, the individual that understands what is going on inside you. And so the person you are dealing with, the person who walks around you might not really understand your situation. And so that's why we need to learn to communicate both in feelings, in thoughts, in ideas, both verbally and non-verbally. Because if you don't tell me your problems, I might not be able to understand your situation. Then what is interpersonal communication? Communication between two or more persons to exchange information, ideas, and what? Experience. You see on the screen, these persons are communicating. You ask question, somebody responds to you. I know that this is what we focus on most times in our service provision. We talk about the importance of interpersonal communication as service provider. But then it's very important that we know that the intra plays a pivotal role in our ability to communicate with others. So then, for the intrapersonal communication, we have three types. We have the self-concept, which is also known as self-awareness. We have the exceptions, and we have perceptions. So when we talk about self-concept or self-awareness, what are we talking about? We're talking about your beliefs, your values, and your attitudes. That makes up that for you. And so, and then we need to understand how this plays an important role in the outer world, your belief system, your values, and your attitudes. What you believe in, what your belief system is not the same with your colleague or your service provider. And that's what we also say in the course of our service provision to our clients. We all have different belief systems. We have different values. We have different attitudes. But we need to understand that it plays an important role in the outer world. What about our exceptions, our expectations of the future life? Expectations are based upon interpersonal communication within one's own self, and are predictions of what will happen based on our perception of what has happened. Is what is an expectation. Then what of perception? Talk about the perception aspect is focused on outwards, what we perceive differently things as we observe them. But then we need to understand that perception can influence intrapersonal communication, because like I said, the way you perceive things might not be the way the other person perceives things. And people have reasons for their perceptions. And so our reasons differ. People have factors that influence why they think the way they think. They see the things they see the way they see. Then the three examples we have it here. You can do it in the thinking form for your self-awareness, think, and then there are written forms, put them down the way you feel, your exceptions and vocal, talking to yourself, rehearsing a message, or talking to people for them to understand. So what is the intra versus interpersonal communication? Which is more important? Which is more important for us? Prosper, pardon me, this is a practical section. It has to do with, yes, so we actually need to get this done. Yeah, which of them is more important?
So we have state clinical mentor, Elizabeth Obioha. Elizabeth, can we have you respond to this? Elizabeth, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, a quick one,
actually,
please.
I believe that intrapersonal relationship is more important, because when you are at peace with yourself, you'll be able to communicate or have a good interpersonal relationship. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Any other person?
Can we have
let's just have two more persons.
Fabian, can we have Fabian respond, please?
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. I do also believe that intra is more important than inter, because just like the previous speaker said, what you have inside is what you project outside. And if you are not at peace within yourself inside, it's going to affect your interpersonal relationship with others. Thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. It shows that we're all on points, and so that's nice. So we need to understand that The both of them are very, very important, because the confidence you build through interpersonal communication conveys a sense to others that you have yourself together. And so both are highly important for the self-growth of an individual. If you know who you are very well, you function effectively, and then you have problems functioning around people. There are times people say that I'm okay with myself. I want to maintain my space. I don't want any issues. I don't owe anybody any explanation. I don't owe anybody any responsibility. That's wrong. Does not promote self-growth. So both are highly important for self-growth of an individual. Both of the communications are influencing in nature. You know yourself very well, definitely it will influence your interpersonal relationship. And when you also have a good interpersonal relationship with people, it also influences your intrapersonal relationship, because it raises your level of awareness. It makes you become so empathic that at every point in time, you want to see issues in the past from the perspective of the person you are dealing with. Intra and interpersonal communication impact each other indirectly. Both of the communications occur regularly in our daily life. They say it's from the abundance of the heart that the mouth speaks. Was that not so? That's what the ancient book says. So both requires a certain set of skills to improve and groom in order to enhance ourselves. So we need to develop those skills. They are very, very important. So which of them do you have? You have more of intrapersonal skills than interpersonal skills. So we have seen that both are very, very important, equally important. One leads to the other. They have a wonderful bidirectional relationship. So what we need to know is that interpersonal skills helps an individual collaborate and work with others for us as service providers, while interpersonal skills helps the individual recognize their strengths and weaknesses. So those are the things we need to understand. When you deal with people, when you are around people, it helps you to recognize, your intrapersonal relationship helps you to recognize when your strengths, when you are already having gaps, when you feel that you overreact, you project your feelings, the way you do things. So those are the things that interpersonal skills helps us to do. It helps us to recognize our strengths. There are some persons that ordinarily, before they start working, they find it difficult to relate with people. You don't talk down on them. Some persons don't want to be cautioned. Some persons don't like being corrected because they feel that they know it all. And so in the course of this, by the time you start building a good interpersonal relationship skills and intrapersonal relationship skills, you'll be able to recognize what your strengths and weaknesses are. Both are soft skills. We know what soft skills are. They are natural. We need to learn them. That contribute greatly to an individual's personal growth, the ability to set and achieve goals and overall success in both their personal and professional lives. So then, what are intrapersonal skills? How do we develop them? They are those skills that we use to communicate with ourselves. Self-control. And that's why you see people make New Year resolutions. I want to learn to do this. I want to do that. It's about exercising self-control. It's about having self-discipline. If you don't talk to yourself, at times, nobody needs to tell you what you are doing is wrong. And that's why we need to be, our level of consciousness needs to be high as service providers, especially for the fact that our relationship with our colleagues affects the service delivery process as a whole. And so we don't want to truncate it at any point. We need to learn to accept, when we talk about intrapersonal skills, we are developing skills of accepting responsibility. We have skills of self-confidence, self-motivation, high self-esteem. Develop skills that helps you to build up your self-esteem. We are resilient. We want to recognize negativity and become resourceful. So we want to, those are skills that we need. Look at what the arrow is. The arrows are pointing to the same direction, and the direction is the self. And so then, for interpersonal communication skills, we need to, these are skills that we use to successfully interact and communicate with others. Active listening. If you are good at listening to yourself, you'll be good at listening to others. I keep saying that. If you are good at listening to yourself, you will be good at listening to others. We need to learn to be flexible. We don't want to be too rigid. It must be this way. If it is not this way, then we can't get it done. And that is why the QI exercise is always, the CQI section is always very important for us. We talk about motivations. Interpersonal communication skill includes your leadership skills. For those who are taking the lead, the team leads, how do you communicate with people? It's very, very important. The skills of learning to be dependent. People should be dependable on you. So we need to learn these skills of patience, talk about patience, active listening, teamwork, motivations. I've said all those things. So there's a relationship between intrapersonal relationship and emotional intelligence. You cannot develop a good intrapersonal relationship skill or interpersonal relationship skill without having emotional intelligence. And that is why you see interpersonal effectiveness plus intrapersonal effectiveness is equals to what? Emotional intelligence. And so what is emotional intelligence? It is the ability for you to understand and manage your own emotions, as well as recognize and influence emotions of those around you. So emotional intelligence is not just dealing with you as an individual, but you are now taking note of those who are around you at every point in time. So why is it important for us? Why is EI important for us as service provider? We have it there on the screen. Is that not so? When you have good emotional intelligence, you can perceive emotions. You can understand emotions. You can use the right emotions at the right time. You can display the right emotions at the right time. You can understand when your colleague is not happy, when your colleague is not motivated to work at a particular time. You can manage the emotions of your colleague who seems to be a bit sarcastic that morning, because that individual has not always been like that. So what could be the problem? You can use emotions properly. So we need to develop ability to identify, manage, and understand emotions without resorting towards confrontation. And that is why it is very, very important, because it deals with understanding emotions. Look at it. It helps you to perceive emotions. What could be wrong? Remember that you cannot interpret people's emotions until they tell you what the problem is. You cannot interpret people's situation. You can only interpret your own personal situations. And so that's why you have to give room for people to talk. So it helps us to manage conflict and build meaningful relationships as service provider, because you learn to understand each other. And with that, you can address the needs of those with whom you engage with. It increases our ability to accurately perceive emotions. I've said so, thereby helping us to what? Deal with difficult situations. No matter how difficult the situation is, we can deal with it once we can perceive emotions accurately. It provides significant benefits for us in developing relationships and promoting positive work environments. Remember, our relationship as service provider has a toll on the provision of services. It affects the way we deal with our patients. I tell you that it affects the totality of what you do. And so we are dealing with our own personal factors now. We are leaving structural issues alone. We are not dealing with our own personal factors that can actually affect the service provision. And then, basically, we need to understand that EI too helps us to manage stress very well. What are the components of emotional intelligence? We need to understand that for you to be able to say you have good emotional intelligence, you should have a good self-awareness, you should be motivated, you should be able to be empathetic, you should have good social skills and self-regulation. So what is self-awareness? It's our ability to identify our own emotions and emotional triggers. What gets you upset? What makes you feel the way you feel? What makes you feel very happy? What makes you get out of place with people? So So you want to understand that this is self-awareness at work, helps you to understand how you are viewed by your co-workers and clients and patients. And so how do we develop self-awareness? We have this, what we call the Joaris window in training. We talk about what I see in me and what you see in me is the open self of all of us. These are information about ourselves that we know and others know. Oh, Prosper is a very cheerful person, is an outspoken person. And then Prosper also knows that he is outspoken and he is cheerful. But then what you don't know or see in me, that's the hidden self, information you know about yourself, but others do not know. It's only Prosper that knows what happens to him if he's around some set of people. It's only Prosper that knows how he feels if he's in some dire situations. And so if he doesn't tell me, I wouldn't know as his colleague. What I do not see in me is the blind self of us all. And what you see in me, that side is the information you don't know about others. The blind self is information you don't know, but others know about you. That's why they said, somebody could tell you, your colleague could tell you that, Prosper, I think I noticed that when somebody talks about religion, you get so upset easily. Or when somebody talks about the way you react when they say somebody has acquired this, the way you react. So you might not know that way. And that's why they tell you that as a lady, the way you are walking, you are bent to one side. You walk dancing, you dance walk, you do this. And some persons tell you, oh, I don't even know. And so that's the part of you that people see that you don't see. That helps us to actually develop our self-awareness. Then we have the unknown self. That part of you that you don't even know. And that part that nobody even knows about you. And those are the subconscious, our potentials. There are certain things we don't even know we can do. And people don't even know we can do. So information about yourself that neither you or others know. And so that's self-awareness. So we're talking about how we're talking about the component of emotional intelligence. Self-awareness check. So do a quick check. Ask yourself, how do I feel? Do I feel uncomfortable with a client or with a particular subject area? Do I feel uncomfortable with a particular colleague in the office? How do I feel about this colleague whenever I'm around this colleague? Am I aware of my avoidance strategies? You know, when at times you have a colleague, they pair you up. Maybe you've been working with a different person and then you never had issues because, you know, some people just pick on people. Could be their transference, could be transfer of aggression. Maybe the person looks like somebody that's done something bad to us. Could be like the person has some characteristics like your former boss. And so you just pick on that individual. So at times you are paired up to work with that person. You are transferred to that team. From the day they transfer you, you already start building issues around that individual. And so that's why we said that intrapersonal communication skill is very important because it deals with the well-being of an individual. You know, when you're angry with an individual, you are causing more problems to yourself than the person you are angry with, because most of the times, some persons don't even know you're annoyed with them except you tell them. So am I aware of my avoidance strategies? Can I really be honest with the clients or with my colleague? Do I always feel as if I need to be in control of the situation? Then the next one is the self-regulation. What is the self-regulation talking about? Just makes it clear for you. Self-regulation literally means how you control yourself in your current situation. And so self-awareness helps you to be aware of the situation. Since you're aware of the situation, you should be able to make a good decision. When you make a good decision, there's going to be action plan, and then there's going to be a feedback, and then you monitor what is happening. And so that is self-regulation. Being in control of your feelings is essential in any situation because our emotions strongly affect other people. That's what we need to know. And then when we talk about empathy, what are we talking about when we talk about empathy? Ability to identify and understand the feelings of other persons. Are you seeing it? Victoria is explaining to you. See the two arrows, the points. You feel, you are thinking, you are saying that person. And then there's this popular saying, we say, put yourself in their shoes. We are not saying you should wear their shoes, but when you are putting yourself in an individual's shoes, You know what that means. Understanding the feelings of others allows you to handle client situations more effectively and also helps you towards be effective in understanding the issues of your colleague. So empathy gives us the ability to demonstrate our own feelings or experience by imaging what it would be like to be in that person's situation. This, my colleague, is always like this. Have you thought of what the problem is? And that's why I said you cannot interpret people's situations until they tell you what the problem is. Until they tell you what their problem is. So you cannot interpret people's situation. So what is motivation for us? We are talking about building emotional intelligence. And so check. Remember, self-awareness helps you to identify what your strengths and your weaknesses are. And that's also part of intrapersonal communication skills. So at the end of this section, you should be able to identify what the gaps are and start thinking of how to fill them up. It is the urge and desire to do something, and it relates to emotional intelligence because your desire can promote different feelings towards what? Something. So what are social skills? Social skills refer to the skills that you need in order to successfully communicate and work with others in functioning society, community, or culture. That's what we need to know. So it's not just about, if you have difficulty communicating with people or relating with people from your religious gathering, from the family, from among your friends, your group, your age group, and others, it's going to reflect in the way you deal with people, even at work. And that's why you hear some people will say that, they say that is the way she behaves, even in their community. You know, somebody who knows you will be there. That's the way she fights everybody in the compound where we stay. So we need to learn to develop social skills. What are social skills? They are verbal communications, cooperation. We should be able to collaborate, give constructive feedbacks. We should speak. We should use good words. We should learn to express ourselves. We should be positive in the way we talk. Our mannerism should be top notch. We need to understand. If you look at it, the social skills embed most of the things we've been talking about. Your ability to listen, your ability to understand people's situation, because you are putting yourself in their shoes. So we need to develop those skills. And that's what I say. You see a client comes to the hospital, and then somebody tells you that you've not been coming. You just want to kill yourself. Have you asked the client why he or she has not been coming? And then the person now tells you that, oh, my husband died. Some persons will say, hey, is that why you will not take your drugs? So if your husband died, you too want to die? I hear people make such funny comments. At times we think we are actually helping the people. Those are not good ways of communicating. And so we need to develop social skills. Social skills are skills that helps us to communicate successfully and reach out to the heart of people. So check yourself right now. What is your EI level? You should know that your EI level is low. If you are very aggressive, you are demanding, egotistical, bossy, and confrontational. You should know that you have low EI. If you are easily distracted, you are selfish, you are a poor listener, you are impulsive. If you look at it, some of them are intrapersonal and some are interpersonal. If you know that you are resistant to change, you are passive, unresponsive, slow, and stubborn, you know you have a low EI. If you know you are critical, very picky, for everything a colleague does, you must find a fault. Remember that in every situation, there is always a good aspect of it. So always start from the positive to the negative. And that's what we encourage people. So if you are critical, picky, add to please. You are a perfectionist. It must be this way. If not this way, it can't go. Then you should know that you have a low EI. And then check and know whether your EI is high. Are you assertive? Are you ambitious, strong-willed, and decisive? Are you the very warm, caring type, very sociable, charming, and persuasive? Are you very patient, stable, and predictable? I tell you that you'll see what happens when Prosper walks into this room. He's going to greet everybody with so much smiles. He's going to relate to us. He wants to know how you did, how was your night. You are predictable. And as you walk in, nobody tells you that. You see, I told you that's what he's going to do. Are you predictable? Are you consistent? Are you a good listener? Are you detailed, careful, or systematic and neat? Check yourself and know your EI level right now. How then do you develop your EI level? If you know that it is low, then you need to recognize. And what do you do in recognizing? You want to monitor your own and other people's emotions. You need to understand. What does it mean to understand? You should be able to differentiate between emotions and label them appropriately. When someone is not happy, you should be able to understand that this person is not happy and know what could be responsible for that. You need to manage issues properly. And so in managing, use emotional information to guide thinking and behavior. We have other ways of developing emotional intelligence here. Reduce stressful situation, embrace your emotions, take responsibility. Think before you act, demonstrate humility and humor. Some people don't have it. Some people, when you talk to them, they say you see them, their face indifferent. And that's why I talked about the non-verbal communication skills are very important for us too. Somebody is telling you about what happened to him or her at home. Your face, no difference. You're just still looking, staring. And the person says, Prosper, are you not hearing what I'm saying? I heard you. The person expected some show of emotions. He wants you to reflect. He wants to reflect the fact that you are listening to him or her. And so active listening involves listening to content, context, the tone that is being, that the things are being said. And then you now reflect feelings. That's active listening. You reflect feelings when you listen to people actively. So we need to understand that emotional intelligence has an impact on communication. What does it do? Lack of emotional intelligence can negatively impact communication in several service delivery through several mechanisms. Less understanding of one's emotions makes it difficult for you to understand other people's emotions. Less understanding of the emotions of others. Less effective communication of ideas and emotions. Inappropriate communication-related behavior, such as unnecessary outbursts of emotions, oversharing or failing to communicate important information. How then do we improve our interpersonal? We've talked about how we can improve our interpersonal relationship. And so how do we improve our interpersonal relation? Because that has to do with how we relate with one another. We are concerned about it now because it affects seriously our service provision. And then we need to understand the fact that the services we are providing, the people we are providing services to, they are very sensitive people. The situation they are in is sensitive. It's very overwhelming. And so what it means is that we should be able to develop ourselves intrally so that we can do well interpersonally. So we want to be more professional. Everybody must not be your friend in the office. But when you are professional, you share pleasantries. You know your limits, your boundaries. Everybody must not be your friends. It's when you think everybody should be your friend, that's when you say Prosper, the way Prosper greeted me yesterday was not the way he greeted me today. The way Prosper is smiling to, or the way Prosper deals with my issues is not the way I expect a friend to deal with my issues. I told you I was not going to come to work. I told you I can't do this. I think you should understand with me because you are seeing Prosper as your friend. He does not necessarily be your friend, but we should understand the importance of professionalism in providing services. We need to reduce interfering in colleagues' work. It is at times when we want to always, I know it all. You want to diminish your colleague. It's not necessary at times. You can actually help them to understand why they need to do certain things rather than always, why didn't you do it like this? If you had done it this way, this is the way it would have come out. You know, if it was me, the last time I did it, this was what I did. And you saw the results, it was good. Give and respect colleague space. Do not spread baseless rumor at workplace. Pass on corrective information to others. Do not share all your secrets with your co-workers. Leave your ego behind. Be very humble. Be teachable, trainable. A team leader should not scold any of his team members in front of others. Don't bring down people who work with you. It's very, very important. It's a good leadership quality. Don't run down people. Even if you identify the weakness in an individual, in a team member, call them privately and talk with them. Stay away from politics. Avoid being jealous. Seek help if you know that you have issues emotionally. There are people who have mental health issues that they might not understand. Some persons have issues with anxiety. Some people are having depression because of their life situations. It is important for us to know when to seek help. In summary, interpersonal relationship and communication play a vital role as people are interdependent on each other. Interpersonal communication plays a more important role as it helps one in regulating their emotions. Emotional intelligence helps us to develop ability to identify, manage, and understand emotions, thereby communicate without resorting to what? Confrontation. I've seen situations where colleagues are fighting in the presence of patients. And I wonder what they were communicating to that patient. Let us try as much as we can to avoid unnecessary confrontation. If you are emotionally intelligent, you can handle interpersonal relationships empathically, and good intra and interpersonal communication skills are required to build a healthy intra and interpersonal relationship as service provider. Thank you very much for listening.
Wow. Thank you very much, Dr. Yetunde. Can we please give him a hand of applause? I see some people already clapping. Please, you may want to stop sharing. You know, I already feel like I was in the church because the only thing missing, Dr. Yetunde, is that you did not make an altar call to call for repentance. Because I can see a lot of people being emotional and ticking the box to see where they need to do some adjustments. Thank you very much, regardless. We can now want to take questions, but before then, I want to ask one question, Dr. Yetunde, so that you start from there. You know, most of the time, especially when you are relating with some people, let me be specific with a woman, there's always this common saying, you should know that I'm a woman, you should know that, you should know this, you should know that, when you are not a mind reader. In this case, is this an intrapersonal communication problem? Or how do you, address this? Because even in the setting in the hospital, there are some, a time a patient is expecting a healthcare provider to know some certain things. You know, just because I am a patient and you are a healthcare provider, you should know this, you should know that, when you are not a mind reader. How do you address this? What is lacking in such a person? Is it intrapersonal relationship problem or interpersonal? You want to respond to that before we take from Fabian?
I just hope I got what you are saying. I want to, okay, I think you're trying to say that, like I said, you don't interpret people's situation, but then I want to interpret based on what you said. I'm paraphrasing right now. So what you said is that if at times people come around, is it for patients and their service provider, or you're talking about among service providers? Quickly answer that.
Among individuals, and among, it is applicable in both sections. Okay. People just want you to know what.
Okay, so you know that naturally we have different defense mechanisms. And so that's a defense mechanism for us at times. When you want to do certain things that you think is not proper at times, you want to project. That's a way of weakening the opposite. And that's why you see on cue, I've heard that before. Somebody said, I'm pregnant. And the guy said, and so, what does that have to do with us? So don't start with that. That's not a reason why you should be given the opportunity you are asking for. But appeal to the individual. Come on. And so that has to do with our ability to relate with people. Please, can you please give me your space? Because of my situation, I might not be able to stand too long. You are communicating reasons rather than projecting. So you want the individual to feel guilty if he doesn't do that. So it's wrong in most cases.
All right, thank you very much. There are other questions, but let me take from the participant and then I could come back. So can we have Fabian Fabian, please, can you quickly unmute yourself and go on straight to the point? We
All
don't
right,
have
okay.
much time. Yeah.
All right, okay. Thank you so much for that presentation. I want to ask, how do we, strike a balance or maintain a good balance between workload pressure at the facilities? How does it affect our intra and interpersonal relationship? The workload pressure that healthcare workers normally experience, especially at the facility level. Thank you, and over.
All right.
Thank you very much. I should expect that question over and over again. Yes, the work we do, no matter how much you enjoy doing the work, at some point in time, if it is overwhelming, it's going to affect the way you deal with yourself and even with others around you. That's the truth. And that's why we're talking about understanding the relationship between work ethics, the work people do, and the service and how efficient they will be. And so there are times that because of lack of manpower and other things, people are overwhelmed by what they do. But we need to also manage our situations effectively. And that's where emotional intelligence comes in, your ability to manage your situations. Remember, that was always said. And so in doing that, at times you don't want to work with deadlines. And you could also relate well with your team lead or the facility head to help them understand. Although most of the times I know that we don't get the needed results. But then emotional intelligence will help you to strike a wonderful balance. That's just what I need to tell you. So try and develop a good emotional intelligence, and then to a large extent, you'll be able to handle the situation. You might not completely take care of the situation because there are issues that are individually based and there are issues that are facility based. So the ones that are individually based, you can actually work on that and then wait until when the facility manages some certain situations.
All right, thank you. Just one again, and then I will take more questions. So this is directly to you, Dr. Yetunde. Patients' emotional intelligence. This is not the healthcare provider now, but patients. Is the emotional intelligence important in managing the healthcare providers' interpersonal relationship that is affecting the health workers' interpersonal relationship? I don't know if you get what I mean. A patient.
Yes.
Okay, so is so because what you have taught us now is about intra and interpersonal relationship as a healthcare provider. Where this is lacking for healthcare provider is the patient emotional intelligence very important in helping to cushion the healthcare providers for emotional intelligence.
Yeah, Prosper, thank you. That's nice. At times, let me give a practical example. At times, you see patients come to the clinic, the health service provider is shouting, and then the patient just talks calmly. Sorry, ma'am, I don't know why you shout. But I've not said anything that will cause this. I hope you are fine because I know you are not the type that shouts. So what's the problem? That patient has good emotional intelligence. And that's why she could relate immediately. And so you will see immediately, for those who realize, who are aware of themselves at that particular situation, immediately adjust themselves. And that's why it's because we don't have good EIs. That's why we even have issues relating with patients at times. And that's why you see some patients end up fighting the service provider. You see people fighting the service providers. They tell you, you think we don't know our rights. We come here, you talk to us anyhow. Why? And so that's why it's important for everybody to develop emotional intelligence. Because we are all, as we are providing services here, we could be patients in another area. So who we are is the function of our environment. Because I'm in the facility, I'm a service provider there. When I go to somewhere else, I will assume another role. And so it is important for us. Once it's in you, anywhere you are, you display it. And so if you are a service provider and then it's your client that is calling your attention to the fact that you have low emotional intelligence, then you need to start working on yourself.
Thank you very much. Let me return back to those whose hands are up. I beg of us, we may take a little bit time to address this concern because of how sensitive today's presentation is. So let's take from Epping, Ogun State, I think State Hospital. Can you please unmute yourself and go on? Epping, Ogun State, SH, I think that's State Hospital also. Epping, if you're not there, we'll move on. Please, can you?
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
Please
I really
on.
want to appreciate the presenter for a job well done. My own question or observation is, can we also look into, or how do we manage staff by teaching or taking them through how to manage their stress? That we are in for people that are the clinical, there are times that people may be overwhelmed. They may be overwhelmed by the activities they are going through. You are folders, patients, documentation.
I think we've lost you. Well, I don't know if that question is gotten. Dr. Yetunde, I may want to take more questions and have you respond.
So we need to, yes. Okay.
Can I take more questions and have you respond? Is that okay?
No, let me just quickly answer that. Okay. Yeah, that's a good question he asked. And that's why we have, okay, first and foremost, I need us to all understand that stress management is a booster to an individual efficiency. And so it is recommended for us at all times as service providers. And so what that means is that everything to be able to identify what causes stress for them, that's work-related stress, and be able to discuss those issues at when they always have review. And that's why it's recommended that there should be peer supervision, bottom to top supervision, peer-to-peer supervision. You understand me? Because stress management is integral, I tell you. And that's why you see that some health service providers are dying even at work.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's take Dr. Yetunde, are you there? Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you, Professor.
Okay, so I want to take 4 more questions and then
take them all together. Take them all together, then I'll respond to them.
Respond to them in one minute.
Yeah.
So
okay.
we have Dr. Deborah Adekunle, FCT clinical mentor. Can you please in 30 seconds ask your question if possible? Dr. Deborah, please, can you? Dr. Deborah is not available. Let's take CCFN Abia. CCFN Abia, you've been enabled. Can you unmute yourself and go on?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please go on.
Okay. My name is Good Luck from the Rizzo Clinic, Abia. Thank you very much for this section, Doc, and it's very, very educative. I have 2 questions I'd like to ask. The first one is about the working environment, and the second one is about relationship with the clients. Okay, the first question is, in the facility, for instance, there are some, situations or attitudes of maybe your colleagues that, like you said, that when you don't convey your emotions to other people, they will not know how you feel. So there are some attitudes or behaviors of my colleagues that, for instance, if I feel that if I go about digging into them or telling them how I feel, sometimes maybe it will erupt more arguments or issues. And I'll feel like, let it be. So I want to ask, do I necessarily need to keep, going into these things so that, the work will not suffer? Or do I sometimes just need to let it be to avoid problems? That's one. Then secondly, talking about relationship with clients. I've had one of my colleagues on several occasions telling me that, that they, to avoid having, getting entangled with, things concerning these clients, that whenever they see the clients outside, they will just behave as if though they don't know them. And he was advising me to be doing so. But me as a human being, like you said, that it's only when you put yourself in other people's shoes that you know what they are passing through. I find it difficult personally. It's not that I can't see people, I ignore them. But at least before I see somebody, I ignore you. When I know you, I must have had issues with you. But seeing a client that I know you, and you come to the facility, I communicate with you, we don't have any issue, I don't have anything against you. And because of your HIV status, if I see you outside, I will just pretend as if I don't know you. And some other time you come into the facility, I talk to you and attend to you. It feels somehow. I am not comfortable with it. Whenever I see them, I always communicate with them. But I also understand that these people too, they always want to, make friends. They feel deserted. They always want to make friends. And sometimes too, when you, get involved with them, you can get, some of them, other people know about their status, and they also, show that stigma towards them. Then when you start coming close to them and that kind of thing, some people can start viewing you somehow negatively. So I would like you to give your take on that relationship with clients. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Can we have Epin Ogun State, BUTH? Please, can we just maintain max 1 minute or 30 seconds max to ask our questions, please? Epin Ogun, BUTH. If you are there, can you unmute yourself and go on?
Yes, sir. Mine is not exactly, it's not question per se. Can I say go on?
Please go on quickly.
All right, just to really appreciate the presenter. It's this highly expository, educative presentation, and thank you, Dr. Prosper, as well. This thing, I want to see that this presentation is, is very, very timely. And I want us to see that as healthcare providers, that it's a blessing to us personally on our own front, at the place of work, even our play life. So it's something that benefits our life all roundly. So I want to say that more importantly, that in relating with our patients, our worldview, like I said earlier on, and the way we feel in ourselves, must be reflected. And while we are interacting with them, in the sense that these patients, these clients, we should see them as our family members. I used to tell my people in my clinic that this patient, don't see this patient, this client as just people that are in need of help. These are somebody's father, somebody's mother, somebody's husband, somebody's wife. Don't just treat them anything lower than that. So we are there. You are just assuming a role, as the presenter said earlier on, that we are just assuming a role as care provider. Outside this setting, we also assume it may be a lower role. See people, treat others, or treat people the way you like to be treated as well. In fact, I think this is one of the this is one of the law of life, that do unto others as you'll be done unto. So it really helps us a long way in managing and developing our emotional intelligence, and in relating to these people and meeting their needs to a larger extent. Because HIV, this thing we are doing is not only biological, it is more psychological. So people can just come and pick up their drugs. If they get home, if you have spoiled their mind, if you have bruised their ego, when they get home, they might decide not to even use it. So
all right, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, so we need to move on. Can we have CCFN Enugu, Daughters of Divine Love Hospital? Please, can we have you quickly, just 1 minute? We need to round off. We're already gone far by 30 minutes.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Job well done. I just need to ask about our mode of dressing and our body hygiene. Does it have anything to do with what we have been saying all this morning?
All right, thank you. Thank you. So let's have from Jeremiah. Jeremiah, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question quickly?
Yes. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
The question I have is, as service providers, if we are emotionally intelligent, should we be expecting our clients to be angry with us at a point? Should we be expecting the worst reactions from them, knowing fully well that even with the service providers, when we are sick, we have tendency of reacting in a similar way to the people that treat us? And if I listened very well to what the presenter said, she spoke about empathy. She spoke about patience. Now, if I'm a service provider and I have patience, I will know that the client that is coming to me is going to present the worst case scenario. Now I will prepare my patience, boost my patience, and know that whatever that I'm taking from my service provider, I'm talking about the negative response from the client, the negative response from the client. I'm going to absorb the shock and then see how I can give the client the best I can. So is it paramount that as a service provider, we should expect the worst case scenario from our client as they come to us?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And then the last person, FCT's technical method, Dr. Deborah Adekunle. If you are there, can we have you ask the question quickly? Are you there, Dr. Deborah? All right, thank you. Dr. Yetunde, please, can you just in a few minutes respond to the question and we'll be out of here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all for your brilliant responses, your observations, and your contributions to this presentation. And so I think the first presenter and the first person that asked just wanted to know the issue of maintaining relationship with our clients outside this facility. And I think the second presenter really dwelled well on that. But just to add a little to that, your colleague told you that you should be careful the way you deal with patients outside, that because when he sees them, he doesn't relate with them. There's nothing wrong in asking. Remember, you cannot interpret someone's situations or reasons. So there's nothing wrong in asking. It's possible the person had a bad experience, and that's why he or she is actually saying that. But ordinarily, as service provider, one of the qualities we display is of not being judgmental. We relate to every individual as one. In as much as we set boundaries with our clients, and then we know our limits, it's always very important to maintain a healthy relationship with clients, whether in the facility or outside the facility. And that's why you do follow-up services for some patients. So, but then some persons have had ugly experiences, and maybe that is why they say what they say. So it's always good to always ask, allow people, explore, allow people to tell you what their views are. And then we need to understand that EI, displaying emotional intelligence as individuals, it's very important. Whether you are a boss, you are a subordinate, it's important because we have seen the relationship between the intrapersonal and the interpersonal we've seen the relationship. And so one works with the other. And so if I have good emotional intelligence and you are taking it for granted, you feel that, oh, that's the way she's created. She's just that, she can tolerate, I can't tolerate. Then you need to see a specialist. Because the essence of life is for us to change, to learn. And that's why they said change is constant. It's something we need to, that's why they said, if you are resistant to change, then you know you have a low emotional intelligence. So people should learn to understand that. because their colleague has a good emotional intelligence, that colleague should not be taken for granted. Why don't you want to be like that person? Why don't you want to think about the outstanding qualities these persons have, rather than thinking of how to bring them down? And that's what happens in most cases. You feel that the person is being nice because he's getting something. You feel the person is being nice because he's bootlicking. Meanwhile, the person is actually doing himself, doing what he's supposed to do. And so that's why we need to understand that our ability to handle workload and produce above average also has to do with our internal strengths and motivations. Then somebody talked about our dressing and hygiene. And I think we said it there, how you develop importance of interpersonal relationship. We talked about being neat, what you need to do. If you are not neat, if you dress shabbily, apart from even dressing shabbily, somebody who has issues with body, maybe there are some persons who are not clean hygienically, maybe they have issues with their body and the way they awful, a bit offensive and other things like that. It becomes difficult for a colleague to be with you. Have you seen where somebody who has issues with their dentations or has dental problems? When I mean dental problems, some persons, they said it's mouth odor or so, or maybe somebody goes to work, does not brush and other things. And you want to talk to a patient and the patient is using his hand to close his nose. It is we that should accommodate a patient. Even if the patient is dirty, we should accommodate, and that's what we are trained for. And that's what the last presenter was saying. The emotional intelligence helps you to build up your coping skills and be ready to accept a patient for who they are. So our neatness is very, very important. It is very, very important. When we talk about neatness, it's not just about physical, our work areas. Some persons come to work, you see the place well arranged, you eat, you scatter, mostly for those of us who work in facilities, you understand what I'm saying. So we need to understand that both physical and work area neatness is also part of what we need to take into consideration. Then our personal conduct is also very important, and then our dressing. We also need to know that as service provider, patients are coming to us to seek for help because they feel that we have solutions to their problem. So it is only you that know that, okay, you cannot handle these issues. They don't see it that way. And that's why when they come, they pour out their mind. They pour out all their pains on you. And yet they expect you to give them something in return. So we need to understand that we are, as service providers, we are the only right thinking person at that material time. And so what makes you the right thinking person means you have a good emotional intelligence. It doesn't mean that you don't have your own challenges. We all have, because we are humans. But then we have been trained to become helpers. We are advocates. And so when you advocate for people, you should be able to understand what their issues are, and then don't project your own feelings on your own pain. And so that's why we need to learn to help people see as much as what we can do to help people find solutions to their problem by not adding to it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we are already out of time, but just to, by the way, we know we'll be soon transitioning the ECHO to the National Clinical Mentorship Program. And we have on the call the FCT State Clinical Mentor, Dr. Deborah Adekunle. And she has asked a very key questions. I'd like you to respond to that, and we'll be out. She said on the chat box, but let me read it out for you. She said, how do we cope with a boss or supervisor who has a low emotional intelligence level? Please, can you quickly respond to that for the FCT State Clinical Mentor, and then we'll be out here.
You know, Prosper, actually the presentation is like it's giving people an opportunity to ventilate their feelings. These are issues that are everywhere, we all know. And then, you know, you have a limit to certain things you can do. Somebody who is your boss, you have a limit to what you can do. But then if there's a proper channel of discussing issues like that, then if you have a forum where you people can talk about it. But what we need to know is that some persons even have low emotional intelligence, and yet they don't know that they have. And that's why we're talking about building up our emotional intelligence. And so in such a situation, the person who is seeing the boss as not having a high emotional intelligence might at times too be having some issues with their own emotional intelligence. Maybe your perception of issues might be wrong at times. And so it's always good to look at it from the two angles. And that's why there is always an opportunity to dialogue. Dialogue means an opportunity to interact. And that's why we are doing this. The presentation is for everybody, whether you are a boss, whether you are a subordinate, whether you are a junior, whether you are this. It's for all of us to do a self-assessment, a self-evaluation of ourselves. And so that we know where we are lacking, what our weaknesses are and what are our strengths. So we want to try as much as possible to reduce conflicts at work. So let's check ourselves. You see, what I do, what I say, the way I act, the things I do. Normally, you know, there are things we cannot actually rule out completely, whereby you favor people over the others. But we need to be very careful in doing this because it has a lot of effect on how people relate with one another and thereby brings down our productivity, affects us. So we need to be very, very careful. And the person who is displaying low emotional intelligence, it's possible he's having a lot of situations he or she is dealing with, but also needs help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yetunde. At this point, we have really gone far beyond our allotted time, but we are sorry because of the content we have today. Let's have the federal, let's have Esken. I don't know if CDC is still on the call. John Esken, are you still there? If you are there, can we have you give a closing remark? I think John is out. So let's have FMOH in the person of Dr. Labake Ekundayo give a closing remark. Labake, please, over to you. Labake, can you unmute yourself and speak?
Okay. Thank you, Prosper. Thank you, Dr. Yetunde. Thank you so much, ma, for the rich and an impactful expository on this all-important topic. Thank you so much, ma. We really appreciate you for always being there and for your invaluable contributions and also presentations on ECHO session. And to all our participants, thank you for being on the call, for listening, and also for your questions and the comments and the contributions this morning. And also to CDC, FICE3, IHUNCC, FN, CIHP, and other IPs, we really appreciate you. And to National Clinical Mentors, thank you for being on the call, and all other persons, and also to NASCAP colleagues, thank you for joining this call this morning. And I believe we've all learned a lot in order to be able to interact with our clients and even others in our day-to-day activities and even within ourselves. I really appreciate you all, and on behalf of the Federal Ministry of Health, the leadership of NASCAP, Dr. Kudo Ikpazu, and then the head of SI, Dr. Adede Bobola Bashoru. Thank you all, and I wish all of us a wonderful Thursday. Bye for now. Over to you, Prosper.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Prosper. Just I saw something on the chat box. Somebody say, how do I disagree with my boss? So I don't want us to use such words. You don't disagree. When you use that word disagree, you're already becoming confrontational and you have a lot of negativity. So what you are expected to do when you want to apply emotional intelligence, you give reasons why you think things should be the other way around. And that's what you do. So don't start by saying I disagree, or don't think that way that I need to disagree. There are reasons why you think things should not be that way, rather than saying you disagree with your boss.
All right, thank you very much for that wonderful presentation and response. It's really overarching. So the presentations we have had now, the recording and all is on our Google link. Please check the chat box, you can see it, and then you can always watch it later, as well as other presentations we have had. Even if I didn't share the slides, eventually just go to that link, you will see everything, but I'm going to still share today's one. So from all of us here at FICE3, my very self, my colleague, Miriam, Joy, and Dr. Issa, I want to say thank you very much, and we look forward to having you again next week. when we'll be having yet another interesting one. Thank you very much and do have a great day.